And good Saturday morning to you all. Welcome to the Spectrum Orthopedic Saturday Morning Huddle. I'm Kenny Rhoda. This way, that way. There we go. He's Billy Beebe, and we welcome you into week number 3 of the Saturday Morning Huddle. And Billy, can you believe we're through 3 weeks, man? That means next week, league play, conference play begins in high school football.
And we're ready for it. We've seen a lot of opponents we're not necessarily used to, required a little extra research by our broadcast teams, but that's why we're there. And we're excited to watch these teams finally meet up, go at it within Stark County.
Yeah, and our guest schedule for today, and again, thank you to all the coaches and special guests that we get each and every week. We'll let you know, Troy Davis, the Louisville Leopards, they get their first win of the season. Troy Davis, the head coach of the Leps and Lep Nation, he'll join us, I should say, at 10:20. Dr. A.J. Seth from Spectrum Orthopedics going to be a weekly guest with us talking about high school football injuries, preventative, as well as when you are injured, what happens there, and then the rehab process. He'll join us at 10:30 today. Brian Baum, the head coach of the Hoover Vikings, will join us at 10:45. Hoover gets a win in week number 3. Matt Dennison, the head coach at Canton South, a shootout, big victory over Sandy Valley in that rivalry that was renewed last night. Matt Dennison will join us, as will Derek Philo, part of our Alt Care TV Game of the Week crew, sideline reporter. He played at Sandy Valley, he coached at Canton South, and he did the game last night on TV. So he has a unique perspective on that game, and we'll find out more of the details on that big game last night. So those are our guests for today. Billy, I want to start with our game, though. It was the Pro Football Hall of Fame Game of the Week. And we had an exciting one last night at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. We knew it was going to be close. You had McKinley coming in 0-2, looking for their first win, their first home game, right? You had Dublin Kaufman coming in. They were 1-1. And a friend of mine, works over there. And he was telling me, he says, you know what? Up front, we're pretty good. We don't have a lot of game-breaking skill players, but we're fundamentally sound. So if we can control the ball, I think we got a shot. Well, guess what? That's exactly what they did, and it came down to the wire, 28-26. McKinley loses its third straight game. Dublin Kaufman gets the victory. But here's the thing I will say about McKinley in this game, and talking with Antonio Hall, the second-year head coach at McKinley, the first 2 weeks, he was not happy at all with their lack of focus, especially last week at Austintown Fitch. They were down 21-0 before you could blink, right? He wanted them to come out faster, stronger, more focused. They changed some things up in practice this week. He told me to try and get the kids focused. Now, they fell behind 7-0 in this game, but they were able to strike back and even things up. And we'll just roll the highlight here. This is the 80-yard touchdown run by Nino Hill to tie the game at 7. Check this out. And so you see where I'm at there, Billy, right? They kicked off. That was the first play from scrimmage after they were down 7-0. I didn't have time to get towards midfield or further down to get it, but I shot it, and that's the angle that I got. But Nino Hill goes into the middle of the pack, busted outside, and then he turned on the afterburners. He finished with 203 yards rushing on 13 carries and 2 touchdowns, that 80-yarder and a 44-yarder later. So if they were trying to find something, right, maybe some go-to guys for McKinley, Nino Hill, who was up for Player of the Week this week, I think is one of those guys that they can rely on moving forward.
Well, here's the big question, Kenny, and I'm interested to hear this from you. And McKinley still taking the loss, but you talked about it. They were a little bit more fundamentally sound. Do you think it helped them to be at home?
Yes, anytime you're at home, right, you're sleeping in your own bed. You don't have to travel an hour and 15 minutes on a bus and everything. Yeah, I think it did help them. Dublin Kaufman, for them, they were excited because they were playing at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. So I don't think the trip for them, right, was a big deal, because after the game, all the kids from Dublin Kaufman wanted to get their picture taken on the logo at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. So it didn't hurt them, I think, at all. And it helped McKinley a little bit. They were tied 7-7. Dublin Kaufman goes up 14-7. McKinley comes back and scores, makes it 14-13 at the break. They missed the extra point. That'll come into play later in our game. And Dublin Kaufman comes out of the locker room. They take the ball, go right down the field. They were methodical, Billy. What I was told they were going to try and do, they executed their game plan. Garen Stokes, the head coach who won a couple of state titles at Minster, he told me after the game, we've been trying to do that. I've got to get my kids believing we can do that. And we did it tonight and made enough plays on defense. He said, look, we knew we couldn't out-athlete them, right? We don't have the skill that McKinley has. What we have is, a good, solid, fundamental team. If we don't make mistakes, they only turned it over once, we can win some football games. And I made a comment during the broadcast with Dan Belford, Mark Miller, Denny Kincaid. I said, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Bill Parcells, the New York Giants, going against the K-Gun and the Buffalo Bills in that Super Bowl where they had the ball for like 56 out of the 60 minutes. I'm exaggerating, but that's to make my point. They wanted to keep that offense off the field. That's what last night Dublin Kaufman wanted to do. And so they were able to do that. And they get the lead late. It was 28 to, I'm going to do the math, 28-19, okay, late in the game. And again, McKinley showing the fight, did not give up. Junior quarterback Keaton Rohde with the touchdown here. Roll the highlight. So Keaton Rohde, he played some last year, paying dividends this year. He finishes 11 of 16, 117 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. He rushed it 5 times for 24 yards in that touchdown there. He threw a touchdown pass to Sincere McNeil, who established himself finally in the third game, 6 catches, 83 yards, and a score. So Nino Hill, Keaton Rohde, Sincere McNeil, right? Those are the 3 guys I think on offense now we're going to be hearing more about in the coming weeks for McKinley. Defensively, they couldn't get off the field. Right. It was 4th and 1 late in the game. Columbus, Dublin Kaufman, I wanted to call him DeSales, Dublin Kaufman is trying to run out the clock. It's 4th and 1 near midfield. McKinley jumps off sides, gives them a first down. They're able to run out the clock and get the victory. So McKinley, 347 total yards. Dublin Kaufman, 322 yards. So just like in week 1 where McKinley outstatted Mentor, they come up on the short end. They're now 0-3. And as I look to their schedule, doesn't get any easier next week. They start Federal League play. Yes, they're at home, but they've got the Perry Panthers, who are 2-1, coming into Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium next week as McKinley tries to get their first win. So that's a recap of our Pro Football Hall of Fame radio game of the week. What about your game on the WHBCSports.com stream game?
Yeah, so you got Louisville traveling to Northwest. We talked about it a little bit last week, Kenny. You're craving that first win. You really want to see that first win. Louisville had that energy. I would definitely say up front is where you noticed it the most. Every single play, offense or defensive line for the Leopards, was causing a lot of trouble for Northwest. Now, the first touchdown comes after a few failed drives for both teams. This was not a game I was used to. I've seen a lot of games with a ton of passing, a ton of scoring to start my season. This game, not the case. Clock's being run out, a ton of slow, methodical running. Both teams taking their time. Both teams clinching timeouts, not letting go of them. Kept them as long as they could. I thought that was interesting. Louisville gets on the board first on a screen pass. A huge, about 50-yard screen pass to Zachary Roberts. And they end up going down the field towards the end of the half again, and they decide to go field goal. Again, I think that was because Coach Davis hung on to his timeouts a little bit. I'm interested to talk with him about that. They go up 9-0. Now, the talk in the booth was week before, Louisville had been up 10-0 at halftime. They end up losing, I believe, 28-10 or 20-10 later to Poland. Come back out. Northwest scores on a touchdown, a big touchdown run on kind of a put-it-together drive over 10 or 12 plays. Louisville responds right away. Their running back, Essick, had a terrific night. Andrew Essick, the senior, 26 carries, 110 yards. The 40-yard touchdown catch is what put Louisville back up 10 and let them kind of run out the clock for the rest of the night. When you have a game like this, Kenny, it's all about the trenches. We saw that highlight right there with Keaton Rhodey. How good were his guys up front right there, pushing through? I mean, it wasn't even. They pushed right through. Louisville kind of had the same thing. Very interested to see if they can keep up with the option. That's something they did a lot. That was very dangerous. It got their quarterback hit a ton, and it almost caused a few fumbles for them. But win number 1 in the books. Can't wait to talk to Troy Davis at 10:20.
And I'll be honest, Rick Worstell and I do the Elk Care Stadium show, 5 o'clock every Friday. Wherever our Pro Football Hall of Fame game of the week is, that's where we do the Elk Care Stadium show from. We did it yesterday. We both picked Northwest. They're at home, right? It's a rivalry. John DeMarco used to coach at Louisville. You're thinking the kids, after the big win the week before, are going to be fired up for this. Maybe there was a letdown, from the prior week when we did the game on radio. But Louisville, Leopard Nation, Ben Stover, I'm sure he had the mini Winnie out there, and they were enjoying their first win of the season. So like you said, we will talk with Troy Davis coming up here at 10:20 and get his thoughts on that. Our Alt Care TV game of the week, Canton South 56, Sandy Valley 30. A shootout, and we're going to get into this one later in the Saturday morning huddle here with the head coach, Matt Dennison from Canton South, and Derek Philo, who was on the sidelines for that game. So we'll break it down a little bit more later on, but a big night there for Zion Culver, the freshman running back, 17 carries, 107 yards, 6 touchdowns. Go ahead, put the graphic up now, because with those numbers as a freshman, 6 touchdowns in a game, he ends up being our WHBC Player of the Week for week number 3, 6 touchdowns in one game. For a lot of kids, that's a season. Some kids, that's a career in high school. They total 6 touchdowns, right? Well, Zion Culver ends up with 6 in one game, over 100 yards rushing, and he is our Player of the Week. Congratulations to him, and we'll talk with his head coach, Matt Dennison, coming up a little bit later on in the show. All right, some of the other scores, you see him scrolling across the bottom of the page for you down there. I'll roll through these. Lake 3-0, Billy Beebe, 31-13. They beat Akron East. 2 quarterbacks slinging the football yesterday. Will Butler, 3 for 4, threw for a touchdown, also ran for a touchdown. Cale Jarvis, 127 yards and a touchdown pass. So they've got a dual threat there at quarterback with 2 guys defensively. They're stout. Dan DeGeorge, you got to love what they've done early on, 3-0 heading into league play next week. Yeah,
and they'll be our WHBCSports.com stream game of the week, welcoming in Glen Oak. What a matchup to kind of lead off their Federal League play there, Kenny. Glen Oak, another team, we're wondering, how good are they? Are they a victim of their schedule, or are they a team we really need to keep our eye on? I personally think they're a victim of their schedule so far. So when they come into Lake next week, that's a big-time matchup. Yeah. I can't wait, and I think everybody kind of checks that score on WHBCSports.com, and they're like, oh, Lake again. I think we may see that all season. If they keep just kind of doing their thing, Coach DeGeorge talked about it, they're one game at a time, but, Lake again. Oh, wow, Lake taking care of business.
Here's what we said about Lake. We've seen them start 3-0, 4-0, even 5-0, right? But then at the end of the season, they're 5-5 or they're 6-4. Can they do it for the full season and that gauntlet that is the Federal League? We'll find out this year. Hoover, a winner yesterday. As they were at home, they beat Kenmore Garfield 40-6. Mason Ashby, remember Connor Ashby, the quarterback a few years ago, younger brother, right? 3 touchdown catches for the Vikings yesterday. Luke Roach, one of the top running backs in Stark County this year, 2 TD runs. And Carson Derlin, 11 of 22, buck 35, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Hoover now off to a 2-1 start, and we'll talk with their head coach coming up here. Let's see, at 10:45, Brian Baum will join us to give us more details on that big win. And how about Massillon, the Battle of the Tigers? Tigers, Tygers, right? Massillon on the road at Mansfield. Wiltrell Hartson, TD catch, TD run. They win again, 33-0. They're now 2-1 after that opening week loss to Moeller. When you say a victim of the schedule, how about the schedule that Massillon has played, right, to start the season? Moeller, Glen Oak, and now this one. They come out 2-1. Jalen Slaughter, 10 of 16, 146 yards, 2 TD passes. one of them to Ardell Banks. So it looks like Massillon back on track to being one of the top teams, if not the top team in Stark County.
Yeah, I'd agree. We wondered how would they respond after their opening loss. They seem to be doing just fine, Kenny. The other kind of thing we're watching with Massillon is they've got a young quarterback. They've got a sophomore quarterback. Jalen Slaughter seems to be doing well.
Yep.
Not only, just running the offense overall, running the options, handing off, kind of being a leader, but we're seeing his arm come back out a little bit. Sounds like he got that opportunity to drop back last night. So that's a kid we're going to see for 2 more years, but sophomore year, Coach Nate Moore is trusting him to lead the Tigers Tigers as Massillon, again, and a shutout on defense. I got to shout out the defense. I can't leave them out. Massillon gets a lot of two-way guys, a lot of athletes, and we know they get great secondary play, and that's been key for them in the past, and I think it'll be key for them this year.
All right, let's bring in our first guest here and welcome him to the Saturday Morning Huddle here, sponsored by Spectrum Orthopedics, and it's the third-year head coach at Louisville High School, Troy Davis, joining us here on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Coach, thanks for making time for us on the Saturday Morning Huddle. How are you today?
I'm doing all right today.
Yeah, I bet you're feeling pretty good. And, Coach, I'm always up front. All right, sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. We made our picks yesterday. You're going on the road. You started 0-2, right? Northwest is rolling this year. They're playing well. I actually picked Northwest in this game, and when we were checking the score, I'm like, oh, Louisville came to play tonight, and you get the win 16-6. What was the difference this week versus the first 2 weeks, and congratulations on the win?
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, the difference this week was we took care of the football. We executed on our opportunities that we had, and bottom line is we had 9 turnovers in the first 2 games, and yeah, you can't win football games without the football. So we took care of the football. And by the way, on your picks, I mean, there's no time right now when you're 0-2. There's no time to look at anything or listen to anything other than what's on film. So I didn't even catch that.
Well, I thought maybe I was adding some bulletin board material or motivation, like Ben Stouffer driving down there listening to the Alt Care pregame show and running to you on the sidelines and say, stick at the road. He picked against you guys today.
Coach was there last night broadcasting for you guys. Definitely very exciting. The fans traveled well for you. Game plan definitely seemed like, and you talked about it, you wanted to control the ball, take care of the ball. How much was controlling the clock a key factor for you, not only at the end of the first half, but to end the game?
Yeah, at the end of the game, we got conservative at the end. We wanted to secure the win. We wanted to keep feeding Essick and Davide and let them try to plow through for some yardage. But throughout the game, I mean, we're no huddle. We were just they were doing some things up front and moving around a little bit, and we wanted to we kind of tempoed that to try to settle it down and see what they were going to give us, what we could get. But we adjusted our speed in terms of play calling and clock management based upon what they were giving us.
Coach, defensively, what did you guys do? We did Northwest the week before against Marlington, right? And they put up 22 points. They have some quick strike ability, right? What was the game plan defensively going into the game to slow them down?
Yeah, well, first of all, I have tremendous respect for John DeMarco. Coached with him a long time. I know that he finds your weakness and goes after it. And, so we wanted to be very disciplined in the secondary and know that he was going to look for us. He attacked our bandit at one point, and got on top of him. And then, but the run game, that kid ran like Le'Veon Bell. He sorted and waited, and he was patient. And we have linebackers that are fast and want to attack. And sometimes we got ourselves in situations where we couldn't play his cut. And so later on in the game, we got a little more patient and try to make them drive the field, and we thought, with the lead that we had in the third quarter, that if we made them drive the field, we would be all right.
Coach, seemed like you guys were starting with the run. You went run heavy. Obviously, Essick had a terrific game with 110 yards. Key third downs, 3rd and 10, longer. It seemed like you kind of all of a sudden pulled out the screen pass card a couple times. Did you try to catch him off guard, or do you feel like that's something you guys like to do with when you need more yardage, of course?
Yeah, we were trying to break a few tendencies. We had made some tendencies in the first 2 weeks that we needed to break. We knew coming in. They were giving us a heavy blitz on 3rd down, and it worked out in our favor on that big play to Essick. But like it's just trying to take what they give you, and they were fast flowing and they were attacking. They started attacking our bubbles towards the end of second half of the game, and so we had to come up with something else. And third down, yeah, we were 7 of 15, which is not quite 50%, but we did all right third down.
You'll take that every week, Coach, right? Almost 50% on third down on offense.
Yes,
Any
we'll
NFL team or college team would take that every week, wouldn't they?
Especially when you're a triple option team, getting the ability to throw on third down and being 7-15. We took that. We liked it.
Coach, the schedule doesn't get any easier. I'm just looking at the WHBC pocket schedule, which is great for our show here. We can follow every team where they're at next week. You're an independent, right? So there's no league play. A lot of teams in league play next week. So your independent schedule has you on the road against the Hoover Vikings. Brian Baum's coming up on the Saturday morning huddle a little later in the show. They're 2-1. Your thoughts on traveling to Hoover and taking on a very good Vikings team?
Well, when I left the house today, I told my wife, I said, well, we're in the Federal League now for 5 weeks. So, and she was not thinking that it was going to be a good 5 weeks in terms of the amount of work it takes to win in the Federal League. She knew she'd be seeing a lot less of me. Which might be a good thing, actually.
I was going to say she might like that, Coach.
Some people enjoy that. But anyhow, yeah, we're Hoover's always a challenge. It's a rivalry game. We love being able to play in that and have that challenge. But yeah, I mean, it's one game at a time for us. I mean, really, we can't look at our schedule. Our schedule is brutal. Somebody sent me a message yesterday that it was third toughest in D3 for Ohio. And I don't know if that's true or not. Twitter does all kinds of things, but it's a tough schedule. But the bottom line is we told our kids going into this week, it wasn't about who we're playing. It's about how we play. And really that's what it is every week. If we can control the ball and finish every drive with a kick, like Jim Tressel used to say, then we can be successful.
Billy, let me jump in just real quick. He mentioned their schedule. Hoover this week. Then they're home against Lake, Federal League, at Perry, Federal League, home against Green, Federal League. They're scoring like 1,000 points a game. And then at Glen Oak. So, Coach, I'll just throw it out there. Why not join the Federal League? You're playing them anyways, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about a lot of different things. It's tough with Louisville. We don't fit for everything. So I know there's league talk all the time, but right now, we're in our 5-game Federal League.
Okay. All right. He'll leave it at that. Go ahead, Billy.
Coach, I want to jump more back into your offense a little bit. You talked about the triple option. You got basically a pistol formation with your quarterback, Davion Cruz, and then a running back behind him and Essick, man on his hip. When you guys snap the ball, Cruz rolls out and he's got an option. Do you kind of hold your breath as he decides to flip that ball? Because there are a couple times he threw it, he took a hit, and your running back took a hit. But, of course, with that kind of offense, there is payoff.
Yeah, I mean, it's something where we have, we showed them this morning in film. There's opportunities there. We've had a rough first 2 weeks, seeing everything live. People have presented different things each week to try to stop the option. And so we see a little bit each week in terms of like adjusting to those kind of things. And, it's a quick hitting offense. It's fast and it takes a lot of timing work. And last night we were able to establish correct lanes and timing and take care of the football. But, we've done a lot of work in the last 3 weeks of getting in the right spots at the right time, expecting things. And yeah, I mean, there's times where, you just like hold on to the football, make sure you get a clean pitch, make sure you don't get knocked out, that kind of thing. But we haven't had a lot of negative plays in terms of our offense the first 3 weeks, but we've had putting the ball on the ground. And this week we were able to keep the ball off the ground and it showed with production.
Last thing, we'll let you go here, Coach, and thanks for joining us on the Saturday morning huddle. One game does not make a season, right? But what did you learn this week after 2 tough losses, right? Turnovers the first 2 weeks. You go on the road against call them a rival if you want because of the relationships and everything with the coaches and all that and the teams. What did you learn about your team in week 3 that you feel good about moving forward?
The number one thing we talked about this week was we had to be unified and take care of the football. And we can't fracture in terms of, those mental breakdowns when you lose a football and what that does to a team. And so we played unified last night and we played with protecting the football. And then in addition, just schematically, we saw a third way that somebody was going to approach our triple option. And, by the end of this series of 10 games, we'll have probably seen 10 different ways that people choose to stop it. And that's exciting too. That makes it a cat and mouse game on Friday night. Who can move the checkers and the chess pieces the right way.
Coach, congratulations on win number 1. Best of luck the rest of this season, and give Ben Stouffer my best. He might be getting up a little late with a hangover this morning, celebrating the Leps Nation win last night.
Sounds good. I appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks, Coach.
There he is, Troy Davis, third-year head coach, joining us here on the Saturday Morning Huddle, brought to you by Spectrum Orthopedics. Dr. A.J. Seth coming up in a little bit here. We want to run through some scores from last night. Billy, throw those scores up on the bottom of the screen there for everybody. Other games with some exciting finishes and some big performances last night. Fairless, how about the Falcons? The Flock, as Brian Novak likes to call them on the Hammersmith post-game show. Fairless now 35-6 over Claymont. They're 3-0. Anthony Stutler, 12 carries, 104 yards, and a touchdown. Carson Colucci yesterday, the quarterback for the Falcons, ran for 2, threw for 2. They're my number 1 team in Ken's top 10. Look for the week 3 version of that at WHBC.com on Monday morning. We'll update it each and every Monday morning, Ken's top 10. Alliance 47-20 over Bedford last night. Alliance, the Aviators, fly to a 2-1 record. Brendan Zerbrug, 2 TD passes, Billy Beebe, 2 TD runs, and Caden Davis, 3 TD runs. That's as good of a 1-2 punch in Stark County, right, as anybody has, don't you think?
I would say so. You look at Alliance and you see if they put up 20-plus points, if not more, those 2 guys played well.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, Spider Miller and the Hornets of East Canton come up on the short end again, 34-6. They lose to Southern. They're 0-3 on the year. Glen Oak went on the road. We knew this would be tough. They played Austintown Fitch, and Fitch wins it 48-18. Scotty Garcia's team 1-2 on the year. Central Catholic, after a big win last week, rolling the dice, going for 2 points. Their schedule is tough as anybody's in Stark County. They lose to South Range, a perennial playoff team, 34-21. The Crusaders now 1-2 on the year. How about this shootout? You saw them last week, Billy. Overtime game last night. Talmadge 47, Green 46. The Bulldogs fall to 2-1, but you had 90. How many points did you have last week with their game?
92.
All right. Well, they went for 93 this week in a game, and they come up on the short end, and we've got them, I believe, that's our radio game next week. Yeah. We're excited about that one. I thought it was the radio game, or it was one of our games, but Jackson against Green, and that's at Green. So that should be a good one. And we'll get to Jackson here in a little bit. And Melbourne, a winner over Waterloo, 28-20. So we're excited about all of our games coming up in week number 4.
Well, I'll tell you now, Kenny, for Green, if you're going to be on the sideline, you got to get cardio in now. Start getting it now. They are flying up the field. It all comes through the air attack. They're extremely entertaining. I got home last night from my game, and I went on WHBCsports.com and tracked that one because back and forth. Unfortunately, it looks like Green didn't have the luck they had this week, same as last week. They just couldn't quite get that stop and then score quick. And I'll say their defense is solid. I don't know what it is.
How is it solid when they gave up the 80-some points in 2 weeks? How can you say they're solid, man?
No, I felt like they were. I watched them. I said, solid. But then you look up and they gave up 40. I guess, like you said, maybe they're not as solid as I thought.
They're going to try and outscore people, and they lost a lot. I think they only returned 3 or 4 starters from that team that went to the semifinals in D2 last year. So, we'll look forward, and we're going to get Coach Geis on the Kenny and JT show this week, and Coach Rohr as well. So we'll get everybody ready for that in week number 4. And we'll tell you what Jackson did here in a little bit. But you mentioned that next week I'll get my cardio in covering that game, right? Walking the sidelines. Well, you know what I'll do? That means I got to hydrate big time all week long before next week's game. And let's bring in our special guest here on the Spectrum Orthopedics Saturday Morning Huddle, and it's Dr. A.J. Seth, certified orthopedic surgeon from Spectrum Ortho. And look at him. He's got his Buckeyes gear on. He's ready to go. You're going to the game tonight against Notre Dame, aren't you, Doc?
I am. I'll be leaving here at about 11:30 and then spend the rest of the day and going to the game.
Well, good for you. It pays to know people and enjoy the Buckeyes crushing the Crying Irish, as I like to call them, from Notre Dame. But I was just talking about next week. I walked the sidelines, right? And the nights have been hot so far in high school football. And you and I were talking off the air about cramping and how that's an issue early on in the season and ways to defeat that or prevent that if you're a high school football coach. What advice would you give out there to all the coaches that are watching, listening, and anywhere in Northeast Ohio about trying to keep your kids hydrated and keeping them from cramping?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. And I think we're going to do this weekly, so
Yes.
I'm real excited. So, I used to take care of Hoover, and Dr. Baum. Coach Baum is on next, I heard.
Right.
But I guess I'm now a free agent, retired, done 18 years on the sidelines. And I was telling Kenny, I also, when I was in residency, helped with Ohio State football, Ohio State basketball. And I just was actually texting both guys. I texted one of my friend who takes care of the Buckeyes and was talking to him about, game day. And so what I'm hoping over the next couple of weeks is to kind of give coaches, to help all of these coaches out now, not just Hoover anymore, but help everybody. Because I really think that there's a lot of things that we did at Ohio State that can really, really make a difference. One of the big things between D1, college and high school is they're playing on Saturdays. So they have, the whole day. For example, tonight, it's not going on until 7:30, whereas high school football starts, 7 o'clock. So what Kenny brought up is very interesting. And him and I were talking about hydration. People don't realize that, even for Kenny, every time you go from one end to the other end, you don't realize that's 100 yards. You do that 4 times, that's a quarter of a mile. And it doesn't register. You don't realize how much you're actually walking. And so hydration has been a big thing for me. And I think what happens is they're all coming in underhydrated or hypohydrated, they call it. And the problem with that is twofold. One, you come in and your electrolytes are completely off. You and I talked about how kids during the game can throw up. The reason they're doing that is all based on the physiological, basically what your body does to protect you. So when it's hot, you start to get an increase in your body temperature. All right. In order to offset that, you start to try to cool yourself down by sweating. So when you get a loss of 2% of your water based on your weight even, is when you start to decline. And what happens is you get this huge electrolyte imbalance with your salt or your sodium. That causes your stomach and your whole body to be electrolyte imbalance, causes you to throw up. But the big thing is, when I was looking at it, the whole cramping thing, I see players doing the mustard and the pickle juice and all of that. It's too late. You could come on the sidelines and do all that stuff. You already missed the boat. And our big thing I see on the sidelines is they have the water fountains, and kids go over and you're taking a sip of water. You're barely getting 2 ounces. So when we were at Ohio State, they always had Gatorade cups on the sidelines so that you're measuring how much they're taking. Okay. And that's a really big difference because everybody thinks that hydration, is key for preventing muscle cramps or what have you. But the minute you start to sweat, you start to lose your electrolytes. It's the cognitive impairment. That's what people don't realize. It's that huge cognitive impairment, meaning you're just not thinking clearly. Okay. If you've ever, when you come home, Kenny, and you've been sweating or anybody, you just don't feel, you just crash.
Right.
And you're really mentally not there. Okay. And so
some people, Doc, say I'm not mentally there every day of the week, whether I'm cramping or not, but that's another story.
that I didn't want to bring up. It's interesting you mentioned it. JT talks about how his brain is bigger than yours, but we can discuss that on another day. But so there's 2 things. One, the players are coming in not hydrated. 2, it's halftime also. If you look at the statistics of the third quarter, because you sit in the locker room, you necessarily don't hydrate. You bring yourself down. You're not sweating as much, but your body temperature is still elevated. Then you come out in the third quarter, and studies have shown that your physical and mental impairment happens in the third quarter, is when you get that down. So it's one of those things as a coach, you hydrate, you keep it going. That third quarter is where you can actually win that game. People
Wow.
don't realize it. Everybody thinks it's the fourth quarter, it's stamina. It's when you're coming out of that huddle or that halftime when you can really nail it. So here's what we did at Ohio State, and here's what I've been a big advocate of for coaches. If you really want to get your players at max conditioning, okay, it's not the night before. People have always done Thursday night kind of meals of carb loading and that. That's okay for endurance athletes. Football is not endurance. Basketball is not endurance as much as it's short bursts of speed. Okay. So when that happens, you have to start the days before of hydrating, constantly hydrating. And it is the easiest way you do this is I would tell, boosters or what have you, it's all about Gatorade bottles. I'm not sponsored by Gatorade, but I'll say Gatorade because it's the easiest thing, is Gatorade bottles, because you are now measuring how much they're taking in versus, a water bottle, because
Right.
you don't know, you could see the Gatorade. And so here's what we did at Ohio State. Okay. And it's still done, and it is done on football. You definitely need to get carbs in your system. Okay. And carbohydrates is what is going to give you that energy. Okay. Now there's fats, carbs, protein. Protein really isn't going to help you on game day. Okay. It's not. People think it is. That's for more long-term muscle gain. Carbohydrates is what's going to give you the energy, because it's kind of sugar to get your muscles going.
Right.
The biggest problem, and if a coach really wants to get them max endurance, you don't let the kids go home after school. That to me is an absolute game changer.
Really?
Yeah, at Ohio State, there's no way the kids just report, an hour before game time, 2 hours, get dressed. That never has happened. Game day for football, like right now, they're all on campus. They're already in the training room, doing stuff. When we did basketball, you don't just show up, you have a whole regimen. Because what happens is the kids often go home, your nerves are going. What do? You often either stop by and get a bunch of burgers, you eat potato chips on the couch. So you're not hydrated, and now you're going to come in with a problem. Okay. So what we did, and what is the absolute best, is a carb loading before the game. So how we did it, and the best way is you do it 3 to 4 hours before game time. All right. And there's something called low glycemic index and high glycemic index. And I don't want to get into too much technical, but
Right.
here's the idea. If you eat certain foods, it will stay in your bloodstream for a longer period. That sugar is what's going to give you that energy. So you eat a bunch of potato chips, your sugar level is going to go up, and then it's going to come down and crash. If you eat this and low glycemic foods, so certain foods I'll just run by you, like a pasta is an easy one. Whole grain brown rice, it's stuff that you really don't necessarily eat normally, but you eat that 3 hours before game time, that will be lasting throughout the game, or at least a lot
Okay.
of it during the game. And
Okay.
that's the difference between going home and eating potato chips or what have you. So
Right.
what we would do for basketball is 3 hours before game, it was sometimes 3 to 4 hours, depending. They're going to eat that carb meal, like whole wheat pasta. Then they're also drinking 2 bottles of Gatorade at that time. Now, the reason Gatorade's a little better than water, and you can do either, is because you are getting that electrolytes in. So you're trying to get some salt in. But when you go home, nobody's going to do that,
Right.
And so I've always said, you keep your players there, you put on a movie, and you just feed them, get them 2 bottles of Gatorade. 20 minutes before game time, you're going to hit them again with 1 bottle of Gatorade. And then all you have to do during the game, and they say, is about 125 ounce cc. So maybe about 10 ounces every 20 minutes. If you do that during the game, that is going to keep you hydrated. And the easiest way you do it is you leave cups on the sidelines, because obviously the coaches are so ingrained in it. Nobody's watching them behind you.
Right.
So when I was taking care of Hoover, I'd always watch the bench, and you would see kids come up and they just bend over, and you know what I'm talking about, that fountain that's running, and you're
Yep.
taking about 2 ounces in, about 17 ounces on your face.
Wow.
And so, the big thing is like those cooling towels. The minute you come off, if you put those cooling towels on, it's going to bring your body temperature down. So you're not going to sweat that salt off. The minute you start sweating that salt off is when you're going to start to lose that muscle, the energy of the muscle. You get that
Okay.
electrical imbalance. So with cramping, interestingly, nobody exactly knows what causes these cramps. They think it's a neurogenic. And here's what's interesting. People are like, the reason mustard and pickle juice is being done, and it's controversial, is when it hits the mouth, it stimulates nerves in we call it the oropharyngeal, or the back of the mouth. For some reason, it stimulates those nerves, which then causes a reaction in the nerves to the muscles. I mean, it's crazy. It's not necessarily taking that pickle
Because it's a sour taste. Is that why? And your taste
There's
buds
something.
react?
Because it's like acetic acid, they say.
Okay.
But my thing on it is, you miss the boat. If you carb load 3 hours before, and we always said 3 to 4 because kids get nervous and then they can throw up, and that's all nerves. But by 3 to 4 hours, you've hydrated 2 bottles. You hydrate again before the game, and you do it in the locker room. You will have a team that is people don't realize this. Yeah, you're gonna be physically better, but it's the mental capacity.
Wow.
That electrolyte imbalance affects the mental aspect.
Dr. Seth, let me jump in and ask you, in between drives, offense or defense, I had a couple people mention it and talk about it. Is it better to sit down and try and rest, or kneel, or should you stay standing, try and move your legs a little bit?
Yeah. So my theory on that is, I'm not a huge proponent of sitting. I'm more of a proponent of, if you're going to talk, you huddle it up. But you want to keep them where they can kind of see the game. And the reason is because their mind is still focusing on the game. And you're starting to think of the next series rather than sitting there. Right. So when you take that break, then all of a sudden you're starting to calm your muscles down a little bit. You're starting to not sweat as much to get this, body cool down. So my theory always is, you keep them standing, you put the cold tower. I mean, these kids are 15, 16, 17-year-olds. They can withstand standing up.
Right.
But I've always said, the minute you sit, because what happens is you sit down, all of a sudden they're like, we need punting, we need defense. You instantly are going to jump up, but you jump up and you run onto the field. Okay. It's not like you've been loosening up on the sidelines.
Right.
That's where it comes out, where if you keep them on the sidelines or close or standing, they're not going to do that. They're still, their muscles are moving because you have to do when you walk, and then they're able to get back quicker.
Doc, we're going to get into so many different things in the coming weeks with you. Preventative injuries, when you do have an injury, what to do, surgery, rehab, all that good stuff. We can't thank you enough for joining us on the Saturday Morning Huddle, and Spectrum Orthopedics jumping on board with us as our title sponsor for the year. Going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for making time for us. Enjoy the Buckeyes tonight as they crush the Irish, and we'll do this again next week.
Absolutely. Great. I really look forward to it, because my big thing is, we need to get these Stark County teams up into those playoffs, and we can compete with anybody. But what we can do, my personal opinion is, everybody think it's not the physical, it's the cognitive part. It's that brain part. And you do stuff now so that when it comes to the end of the season, your body's in tune. And like I said, that third quarter is the biggest difference maker.
Great stuff, Doc. Enjoy the game. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
There he is, Dr. AJ Seth from Spectrum Orthopedics, talking to you about cramping and everything. And Billy, he and I had a great conversation during the week, and he's like, look, you really got to start on Wednesday night, then Thursday, and then do what he said on game day and everything with the electrolytes and Gatorade, Powerade, body armor, whatever your choice is, right? That's the best way to do that, along with taking care of guys during the game. So If you're out there, take notes, coaches. It's some good intel that he got when he was working there at Ohio State football and basketball. And they're putting money into those researches, right?
Absolutely. Kenny, how long has the pickle juice thing been around? Was that
It's
around?
been around a while, and I love pickles. I'll do shots of pickle juice, no problem, man. It's just for fun. For me, I'm weird that way. That's just how I am. So give me the pickle juice, but the mustard, I was never a fan of mustard. So we'll stay away from the mustard. We'll eat the pickles and drink the pickle juice still, even if I'm not cramping up. But I do like. I'll give you an example. For yesterday's game, before the game, I did 3 body armors yesterday. I have a favorite flavor, coconut, coconut pineapple. And I buy 3 every Friday. I drink one early for breakfast. I drink one, with lunch. And then I have one right before the game when I'm going to walk the sideline. So I take what Doc says and I put it to use. No cramps last night for me. Number of kids had cramps in our game. I'm sure around the county they did. But none for me. That's thanks to Doc, and we'll spread the message each and every week with Dr. AJ Seth. All right, let's bring in our next guest, Billy, because his team with a big win last night as they improved to 2-1 on the year. Talking about the Hoover Vikings as they beat Kenmore Garfield. The final in that game was 40-6. And so win in week 1, a loss in week 2, a win in week 3, and then they've got a big home game coming up in week 4 against Louisville. So let's bring in the head coach of the defending Federal League champions, the Hoover Vikings, Brian Baum, joining us here on the Saturday morning huddle. And coach, we appreciate you making time for us. And slide over one, Billy. I see him, the video over there, and we'll try and get him rolling with us here on the Saturday morning huddle. There he is. How are you today, Coach?
Good to be on, Kenny. Thank you.
Always a pleasure to have you on, Coach. Tell me about last night's game. You're 1-1, so you find out a little bit about your team in a win and a loss. You prepare for week number 3. We always hear that, boy, a lot of improvement is made from week 2 to week 3 at the high school football level. So what improvement did you see in the win last night?
Finishing. That's one thing we've been talking about, not just about driving, but finishing those drives, finishing on defense. The week before, we weren't happy with the results, around the board there. We did a nice job for a half. Second half got away from us. We have to do it through finishing. And we're starting so many new guys this year that they're learning how to play varsity football on the run, and they're doing some good things. But the finishing, that next step of what's play 4 quarters of Hoover Viking football. And last night, first half we didn't finish a couple drives. We challenged them at halftime. In the second half, much better effort across the board. And, that effort is just finishing, and we do able to do that to get 40 points on the board by the end of the night.
Coach, you talked a little bit about your new guys coming in. Last year, you guys were a defensive team. I think that was your reputation a little bit. Everybody wants to know this year. I think I know how you're going to answer this, but I still want to ask it. Are you an offensive team or a defensive team this year?
Yeah, I think we're much more balanced this year.
Oh, it is both.
We returned a quarterback and a running back, a couple receivers are really making some nice plays for us. And defensively, we're replacing a lot of guys, but our linebacker core is back with Jack McKelly and Luke Gualo. They're doing some nice things, and we've seen some guys step up and really help us out there. But it's going to take a balanced effort, both running the ball, passing the ball, and playing solid defense. And the one area we're going to make strides on throughout the course of this year is our special teams. A lot of new guys in there, and that's one thing you always forget about when we're talking about these kickoff stuff. They don't do that at the JV level anymore. When you put a bunch of new guys out there, they're learning on the fly and learning how to do everything. So you're going to see a better kickoff effort, better punting, and obviously extra point. And our kicker, Jeremy Kish, coming along, and our punter, Sean Cavanaugh's doing some good things. So special teams will also get better the course of the year.
Yeah, Robbie Smart, a huge weapon for you last year, right? Shimmick and Logan up front, defensive line, offensive line, and everything. Coach, who has kind of stepped up to replace those? They're kind of like Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney for you last year, right? Those two guys getting after the quarterback. So who's kind of trying to step into their shoes, if you will?
We've got a few guys doing that. We had Drew Zarko, Bryce Roach, Brendan DeGuzman. Zarko went down last week. So, Bryce Roach, Brendan DeGuzman, and then we had Harper Laughlin step up. So all three had brothers play for us, things like that. So seeing them step up, and we got some other guys that are pushing to get in there as well. And hopefully we can get a fourth guy able to rotate in.
Coach, let's shoot to your quarterback. Talking about Carson Derland. Was there something that happened in the offseason, or is it just him getting a little bit older that he's kind of got the green light to pass a little more. You guys are trying to throw the ball around a little more with him.
Oh, absolutely. No, he was a sophomore. I always joke with people last year when Cade went down, he was a scout team linebacker. And he was on that scout team playing linebacker for us, and he's thrust into the quarterback role. Didn't have the all season to prep and stuff like that. This year he worked year round on. He, obviously plays baseball in the spring and stuff, but he worked year round to get a stronger arm. He's grown physically, and you're naturally with that much experience, you're going to get better with decision making. He's doing that, and he's doing a good job for us. And he's not perfect yet, but he's definitely making leaps and bounds each and every week.
We always talk about triplets, right? You like to have a quarterback, a running back, and a receiver you can count on. Well, your quarterback's getting the experience from last year and this year. Solid there, right? Running back Luke Roach, one of the tops, in the county. Let's start with him before we get to the other triplet and wide receiver. What is it about Luke Roach that makes him such a good running back and so special to your team specifically?
He sees real good vision there at that first level. He sees the hole. It doesn't take much of a hole to get there through. He's not the biggest guy, not the fastest guy, but great vision, finds the hole, knows how to use his offensive line, and gets that second level and has a little bit of a burst there. So he's done a real nice job for us, and he holds on to the football. I'm knocking on wood on that. Holds on to the football. That's the number one thing. We can't ever turn the ball over.
All right, let's go to that third member of the triplets, wide receiver. The Ashby name is familiar to everyone in Hoover, and Connor was your quarterback a couple of years ago playing baseball at Kent State. Now his younger brother, Mason Ashby, 3 touchdown grabs, I guess, last night in the win. So you've got him on the outside. I guess it's in the genes, but what makes Mason such a good player along with the other Ashbys?
He's not real big, but he's tough, and he's quick and elusive. He gives us that burst that we need to get away from defenders. And, one time he caught the ball last night. It was a little bit high, but he snagged it, came down, and as soon as he hit the ground, boom, he burst into the end zone and didn't give the defender any chance to get him. It was like I said, it's just one of those things where you saw that burst. Like, okay, this is why this kid can be special.
Coach, you're coming up against Louisville here. They run some different kind of stuff. They run some different kind of plays. With the team that mixes it up, obviously running triple option, throwing a little bit, running a little bit, how do you guys game plan for something like that?
Assignment football. We have to be sound with our assignments, and we already started working on that last week with some of the things that Garfield did. It allowed us to play assignment football for the option reads, and that's what we're going to do this week is play assignment football and get after them.
Coach, gap integrity, eye discipline, right? I mean, we hear those terms so much in football, and the normal fan maybe doesn't know what that means. For our viewers out there here on the Saturday Morning Huddle, tell them how tough that is and why that offense is tough to play against as a defense, because you think you can make a play, but if you go after it, boom, they come right back at you, and you give up a big play, right?
That's exactly it. You may think you read something, and against the option, you're 100% wrong. You have to do your 1/11th, your job every play, and assume it's the play that has to come to you, and not guess if it's you're coming in to tackle the dive, quarterback pulls it, or you chase the quarterback and he already gave the dive. You have to do whatever you're assigned to do.
Yeah, Coach, and that's where we hear Belichick again. Do your job, right? 1/11. Just do. You may not have the stats this week because we're playing the triple option, right? But next week, when it's a drop back offense, that's where you'll get your stats. But overall, it ends up in the W column, right?
That's the key. And just do your job and don't worry about anything but what it is to get the win.
Coach, going back to Mason, we talked a ton about special teams with different coaches and players. When you have a talent like Mason, returning kicks, returning punts, is there something you do differently schematically to maybe try and let him loose? Or compared to somebody that might not be at his talent level, you're just running a system? Talk to us about special teams, kickoff, punt, return.
Yeah, we can move him around. We did that against Senior a little bit, the way they kicked it the week before, and we got a couple returns with him. Then they started kicking away from him. So, we can move him around a little bit to get them out of their comfort level as well, because they don't want to kick to him. Like I said, he's just an electric player for us when he hits the ball. So he's tough to bring down as far as just catching up with him.
All right, Coach, before we let you go, I'm looking at your schedule. You will not start league play this week because you've got Louisville there and Independent. But after that, it's Glen Oak, McKinley, Perry, Lake, Green, Jackson. You're the defending champs. I know it was special last year, and it meant a lot to you and the players. Now the bullseye's on you guys, right? everybody's coming for you to knock you off the top of the mountain. And I know you're focused on Louisville, but if you could just give us maybe what you've told the guys about trying to defend the league championship in the Fed this year.
It's real simple. We just got to go to week by week, and we break it down quarter by quarter. Every week, I tell them, let's go 1-0 on the weekend. And then during the game, I hey, let's win this quarter. And we got to break it down and simplify things for us because we got to take basis. We have to improve ourselves. And if we keep improving, we'll be able to compete then.
Coach, thanks so much for making time for us on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Congratulations on the win last night, the 2-1 start, and good luck this weekend against the Leopards.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Brian Baum, outstanding coach there for the Hoover Vikings, Billy. And last year, they were undefeated in the Fed, outright champs, right? No doubt about it. And then in the playoffs, they got upset by Green, who ended up in the state semifinals, who they had defeated earlier in the season. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle everybody's best shot this year in the Federal League.
Well, and I liked your comment there, Kenny, about the triplets, right? The main three guys you want to have. I personally think a lot of teams are missing the wide receiver. They have talented guys, of course, every team does, but do they have one guy, the guy? Mason Ashby's huge for Hoover, and consistently reeling in, 2-3 touchdowns, possibly a punt return, a kick return for a touchdown. That's huge for Hoover to have. Again, when you talk about it, Federal League play coming up, they've got a receiver, and a lot of teams are still trying to figure out who their number one receiver is. I think that's going to be big for Hoover.
All right, let's run through some other
offense.
Yeah, I know, right? What a difference a year makes. Let's run through some other final scores that we didn't get to yet. Jackson, a big win on the road. Again, I admit when I'm wrong. They were going to Boardman. I didn't know a lot about Boardman, but normally it's a very good football program. You're on the road, right? Jackson, 43-14. Jay Rohr now 2-1. They beat Boardman at Borden. Jason Davide, 3 TD runs, 17 carries, 116 yards, 3 scores. The week before, I think he touched the ball 6-7 times. He's your best player, okay?
Right.
He's got speed. Get your best player the football. Jay Rohr did that yesterday. It paid dividends, and that took some of the pressure off of Ethan Lesko. The week before, they were like 1 of 15 or 16 throwing the football.
Yeah.
Well, yesterday, Lesko 6 of 8, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. So it's going to help him, as a quarterback. And defensively, they were big with 4 picks yesterday, Jackson.
Obviously, that defensive stat towards the end there is big, 4 picks. We mentioned it, though, Kenny. You probably weren't going to throw the ball the same way coming into this week. They were going to test it back out if they go with Davide as the main source of offense. I don't think they're disappointed with that, of course. Defense stepping up a little bit, and I'm always impressed by a team that can go on the road in unfamiliar territory. So, they're not going to Lake. They're not going to Alliance. They go to Boardman. Like you said, I'm sure if you just say, we don't know much about, coaches might have a little better, but that's an unfamiliar program to them. Very impressive for Jackson to go win on the road. And, week 2 to week 3, you talked about it. Here's Coach Rohr adjusting his offense.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And how about Matt Gulling and Tuslaw with a road win last night at Tusky Valley, 38-20. Troy Harbitner, 13 carries, 138 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he also threw it 22 times, completed 13 passes, $168. So he combined goes for over 300 yards of total offense for Tuslaw, and they improved to 2-1. St. Thomas, unfortunately, off to an 0-3 start as they get blasted by Carrollton, 63-6. Another team off to an 0-3 start. Marlington, a close one. It was a home game. But they lose 7-0 to Ridgewood yesterday, so they're still looking for their first win. Minerva, by the way, their game against Beaver Local yesterday was canceled due to a COVID spike with the Minerva team, so they did not play last night. They remain 0-2. And then the last team we got to throw out here, the Perry Vikings. The Perry Panthers beat the Euclid Panthers. It was the battle of the Panthers, and I had Vikings on my mind. My bad. There's an Ernest Feiner moment. I fumbled that one. 42-21. Perry gets the win. DeAndre Church, $174 on the ground, 4 touchdowns, and Carson Basham, 90 yards rushing and a touchdown. As a team, they ran for over 400 yards. I mean, they've got to be happy, thrilled with what they've done early on. Even though they lost last week, they're 2-1 heading into Federal League play.
Well, great to see the Wing T is officially back. We'll give it that official stamp of approval as Perry was a team that took a tough loss last week. They're playing at Benson, a Canadian team. So, a team that, again, unfamiliar with them, but an interesting play. Perry back on track. And I wonder, Kenny, is this how the Federal League is going to be this year? Now, it'll change up when they play each other, but are we going to get to week 7, week 8, and it's a little bit of a hodgepodge of 4-4 and 5-3, and guys that are so close, everybody's right there, because we know that's how it was last year.
Right now, Lake looks to be the best team right through the first 3 weeks in the Federal League, but we've seen them start strong before, get into Federal League play and struggle. Can they get over the hump this year and be the team to beat in the Federal League? We thought both Hoover and Green might struggle with all the kids that they've lost. Both are 2-1. Green can score. Can they stop anybody? We don't know. Hoover, as you pointed out with Coach Baum, changing the philosophy or the identity of their team from defense first last year to maybe having to score more this year. McKinley's 0-3. They played better yesterday against Dublin Kaufman, but is that going to translate into the Federal League? Last year they started 0-2. Won 6 of their next 7 games. Well, they're 0-3 this year, right? Now they get into Federal League play. They've got a home game against Perry. Look at what they've done already, right? They're 2-1, off to a solid start. And they've already played a game at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium where they played the team from Ontario. So this will be their second game at Benson. So it's not going to be as foreign maybe to them as it might have been if this been their first game at Benson this year. So you look at those teams. Glen Oak, I still think, is working its way back up, rebuilding. Scotty Garcia. You look, at this thing. I think it's up for grabs when you factor in the head-to-head battles that we'll see week in, week out with Jackson, with Green, with Glen, all these teams. Lake looks to be the best right now, but that could change in a week or two. But we'll see if Dan DeGeorge and the guys can keep it going at Lake High School.
Well, let's get back into McKinley. I know we've mentioned them. We've given them time. They've got their matchups so far, Kenny, and then you say to yourselves, man, just wait till they get to the Federal League. Just wait till they get into familiar play. Is that really the take we want to go with, is once they start playing Jackson and Hoover and Lake and that kind of gauntlet, then they're going to get, in their groove? I think that's going to be tough.
Well, here's why Antonio Hall might disagree with you, okay? Mentor, one of the top teams in Division I. Austin Town Fitch, one of the top teams, right? And Dublin Kaufman, a pretty good team from Columbus, right? 3 good teams to start the season. Ideally, you'd like to be 3-0, maybe 2-1, at worst 1-2, but 0-3. They played with Mentor in week 1, won the statistical battle, but lost the most important stat on the scoreboard. Last week against Austin Town Fitch, didn't show up, right? Down 21-0, didn't show up. Changed some things in practice, played a close game against Dublin Kaufman, came up 2 points short. Special teams let them down on the missed extra point, which forced them to chase points, the rest of the game. So they're going to say that our non-conference schedule, those 3 tough games, I would rather play those games than beat somebody 42-0, 56-6, and really not find out a lot about our guys. So if you're trying to look at it glass half full, if you're McKinley, we played a tough non-conference schedule. That's going to get us ready for the Federal League, and we'll show it when we play host to Perry this week. And it'll be interesting to see if that is truly, what will happen and if it pays the dividends.
It's great points there. I agree with you that, of course, they're warming up with some terrific talent. Menor looks awesome. I think Menor's going to have a great year in high school football this year, so can keep an eye on
last night. They're known for offense. Menor, Brian, I was listening to the postgame show with Brian Novak last night, 7-6. Menor won by scoring only 7 points. They usually score that in the first 3 minutes of the game with, I call it fast break football for the Menor Cardinals, but they found a way to win. And that's the other thing that we're going to see now as we get into league play with some of these teams, right? Can you find a way to win when you're not playing your best football?
Right.
If you do have a turnover game, 2 or 3 turnovers, if you do get in a shootout? Can you find a way to win, whether it be on special teams with a return, a block kick, or a field goal late in the half or late in the game? Can you, as a team, build that belief, that confidence by when you're not at your best, you still find a way to win? And I'm curious to see if Lake can do that, right? I'm curious to see if Perry can do that, because Coach Slates has done a great job in year number 2, right? Already 2 wins this season. And, they went for it in their own territory last week to try and ice the game. It didn't work out. So they come out of the non-conference schedule 2-1 going into conference play, feeling pretty good about themselves and that crazy offense that they run there. So we'll see who benefits the most from these 3 games early in the season.
Yeah, I agree. I think this early season, for a couple teams, it's a measuring stick. And then for a couple teams, I think we've identified that they're going to get better throughout the season. Louisville, I think, a great example. Don't judge them off their first 2 games. Once they eliminated those turnovers, they look tremendous. I know I just went on a little McKinley spiel, but they could be the same way, Kenny. Those first 3 games could be, nothing to worry about, nothing I should talk about. And then by the end of the season, we could be looking at something kind of a little more interesting. Wanted to get to something fun at my game last night.
Go ahead, yeah.
Louisville and Northwest doing a little bit of fundraising heading into the game, okay? So Stay with me here.
Okay.
Barry Tosh and Larry Tosh. They
Tosh
are
brothers.
identical twins,
Okay.
brothers, and they are principals of the respective schools.
Wait a second. Principals at Louisville and at Northwest?
Northwest,
And
absolutely.
they're twins.
Identical twins, Gary and Larry. We'll get a shot to show you some video from their little charity event later on. I think we got Coach Dennison with us now.
All right, we'll get back to the identical twins at rival schools and everything, but let's bring in the head coach from Canton South. A big win for them yesterday, 56-30 over Sandy Valley as they rekindled the rivalry after 51 years. The rivalry renewed, and a big win for the Wildcats. We bring in Matt Dennison, the head coach from Canton South. Coach, thanks for joining us this morning here on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Congratulations on the win last night.
Thanks. It was a good win for us, and we can learn a lot from it and get better from it.
All right, let's start with rekindling the rivalry, Coach. Rivalries are fun. We all love rivalries, right? Ohio State, Michigan, Pitt, and West Virginia just renewed the backyard brawl. You guys bring this back after 51 years. How important was it to find a way to get this rivalry back on the schedule and create the excitement for both schools?
Well, I think it was real important. We're 10-minute drive away. We're right on, both of us are right on 800. It's 2 schools. All the kids know each other. I mean, our co-op with our CTE kids is together. So, it's something that I think is important. I think you could see it with the spirit from both teams and how hard both teams played, that it was an important game to each team.
Coach, a lot of games we've seen this season go down to the wire in a shootout fashion. A lot of points on the scoreboard. Your game the same yesterday. You guys needed 56 to pull that one out. Was there a point in the game that you said to yourself, okay, we're going to need about 40 to 50 points to get this one done?
Well, we want to get 40 to 50 points every week, but, we just knew we had to keep scoring the football, and we have the ability to score. And, we pushed a little bit, and we always stayed ahead of the chains all night. So, we were in the flow of the game. I knew, we might get into a little bit of a scoring battle because, but defensively, I still, we made a lot of bonehead plays last night. We gave them literally gave them several touchdowns with miscommunications, with blown coverages. We blew 2 coverages for 2 touchdowns, and we didn't line up on the wide out for a 3rd touchdown. So we gave them 21 points right there. And then the counter, everybody did everything wrong on the long run.
Coach, when your defense maybe gives up a play like that, you have the offense that can counter, right? And everybody's, talked about it and everything. Poochie Snyder, one of the top quarterbacks in the area. What's it like for a coach to know, all right, yeah, we missed an assignment. we let them have a big play, but boom, you get him rolling back out there with that offense and his ability to throw it, run it, or use the weapons at his disposal.
Well, and that's exactly right. We got some weapons, and that's where we're different this year. We can run the football effectively, and you saw that last night. We hunkered down and we ran the ball more than we threw it last night in the whole game, and we even got in 21 personnel and pounded them in the second half, and we're very good there. So it's nice to know that we have an offense that can be multiple, we can take clock, and we got the 3-score lead, and we're going to keep that clock moving, and that's what we were into last night. But it's real nice, and that's one thing. We answered every score that they had, and secondly, even more importantly, when we turned the ball over 3 times offensively, and we went 3 and out all 3 of those series, and that was big. If you take away the big plays that they had, we really defensively did a real nice job. But that's one of those things with 4 sophomores and a freshman starting on defense. We're in that learning curve right now, and we're gonna make mistakes week 1, 2, and 3. We got to clean them up. That's why I spent 2 hours of good film work with our kids this morning, and hopefully a lot of that stuff's cleaned up.
All right, Coach, let's get to our player of the week here. Your running back. I'll put the graphic up here. Zion Culver. 17 carries, 106 yards, 6 touchdowns for him last night. He was obviously tremendous. Did you expect this from a freshman?
Yeah, we know he's a talented kid. That's why he's playing varsity football on both sides of the football. And he had the hot hand last night. And he actually got he got the touchdown runs. I know all 3 of our guys ran the ball real well. Zion ran the ball real well. He got the job done in the red zone for us. Ethan Fricky had some big runs, and as did Ja'Kai Holston. So the trio of backs really helps us, I think. And Ja'Kai Ja'Kai had some. Ja'Kai had a couple of really good 0-yard runs last night, where he secured the ball when we missed assignments up front, and just took the 0 or took the +1, and did a good job there. Ethan ran the counter real well. They all ran the pin and pull. All 3 of them ran the pin and pull real well.
Coach, you ever score 6 touchdowns in a game, though?
No. No. And that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's a freshman, right? Now everybody's going to expect him to do this every week for the next 4 years.
Yeah, now he's got that weight on his shoulders.
No doubt. Coach, for you guys coming into this season, every team is different. Some teams set goals, others don't. They just go week to week. What's your philosophy with that? And this team with an experienced quarterback, big play offense, a growing defense. How did you approach this season with this team?
We have big expectations. We knew that we want to win our league, which starts next week, and that's a big thing for us going into a new league. We also we want to make our goal is to win the regional championship right now. And we have to do that by taking care of each week. And when you have that end goal in mind, it gives you something to work towards. And, right now you make those big goals, and then you do it week to week. So you see that big picture, though. You always want that big picture in the back of your mind with goal setting.
Coach, we've talked to a couple different coaches from the area and looked at some programs. Seems like a lot of teams have made either steps forward or some big changes from week 2 to week 3. Do you feel like you guys have done that? And if so, what specifically have you kind of implemented from week 2 to week 3 or changed?
Well, we just keep growing. We've added some implements to our offense that we really didn't use last night. But we are very multiple offensively. We take what the defense gives us, and I think we did a good job with that. Defensively, we stopped the run really well last night. Saved 2 plays. They hit 2 counters for good runs, but I looked at halftime and they were averaging 1 point. They had 24 points and were averaging 1.7 yards a carry. So, and then we gave up 2 pretty good runs in the second half that were just missed fits. I mean, our guys were there. We missed the fit. We missed the tackle, and we talked about 2 linebackers missed tackle on a 35-yard run. That was a 35-yard difference, and then the counter for a touchdown. Everything went wrong.
Coach, what about next week? You enjoy this for 24 hours. You're 2-1, but like you said, league play starts next week. CBCA is your first opponent. Tell us a little bit about them and what it's going to take for the Wildcats to get another victory.
Well, they're a physical team. I mean, they're going to establish the run. If they were in the I thought maybe my dad would be on the other side of that because they run the balls way more than they throw it. But they're going to run the wing tee. They're going to run some dive series. They're going to run some belly series. So we've got to stop the run, and that's big. And they have a big play receiver on the edge, but they have 3 running backs that run the ball very hard. So we've got to make sure that we're up for that challenge, which we're getting better each week against the run. Offensively, they're going to be in a 3-4, and they're going to play 2 shell, and they're fundamentally sound.
I talked with Brian Baum about this. They've got Louisville coming up this week. Gap integrity, eye discipline, right? When you play a team like this, preaching to your kids all week long, do your job. Don't try to freelance this week, correct?
Absolutely. Eye discipline is something we had problems with last night, so it's something that's going to definitely, regardless, now that it's a wing team, it's even going to be more important.
Coach, thanks for making time for us today. Congratulations on the win. We're going to talk more about your game with Derek Philo, who was calling the game on the sidelines for us on the Elk Care TV Game of the Week. And best of luck next week, and we'll talk to you throughout the season, all right?
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Matt Dennison, head coach of the Canton South Wildcats in his second year. They're off to a 2-1 start. They've got a lot of offensive firepower there. And Zion Culver, our WHBC Player of the Week, 17 carries, 107 yards, 6 touchdowns. Let's go to bring in Philo right now. Bring in my guy Philo, my BW brother, but also a Sandy Valley guy and a Canton South guy. What was last night like for you, Philo, playing at Sandy Valley, coaching at Canton South? You had Poochie when he was in diapers, I think, and you're on the sidelines calling the game with Frank and the fellas. He was in diapers, I think, and you're on the.
I can't hear you guys right now.
Oh,
sorry.
That's all right. We'll see if we can hear you loud and clear. But if somehow I can't use sign language, or can we send him a message where we can type him or whatever, something, Billy, and he can just give us a recap of the game last night because he has such a unique perspective, on the game, having played quarterback at Sandy Valley, and it meant so much to him, but also coaching, at Canton South. And he did have Poochie when Poochie was a young kid growing up and everything like that. So we'll see if we can get either reconnect with Derek, via a telephone call only, or if we can reconnect with him video-wise, because 86 points were scored in this game. Like I said, they rekindled the rivalry after 51 years, and you heard Coach Dennison talking about it. Hey, 10 minutes apart, all the kids know each other, and it's nice to see a game of that magnitude back on the schedule for both teams. And would love to get Derek's input on where are we, Billy? We having any luck with him or no?
I sent him a quick fix, so I'm gonna try and see if we can get him back here in a second.
All right, we'll try and get Derek back with us and reconnect with him, because I mean, it doesn't get any better than having a guy that's been on both sides of it, right? Either as a player or as a coach, ingrained, in both systems or in both communities. And then there you are, watching, on the sidelines. And let's see if, he can hear us now, or any luck hearing us now, Derek? We can see you. You look fantastic. Hoping you can hear us, or maybe in a little bit of a delay situation there, or not. Unable to hear us still, Derek? Look fantastic.
Thank you.
You do look, so you can hear us now. We're good to go, right? Or not. Unable to hear us still, Derek? Look fantastic.
Thank you. Well, I got my phone going right now, so okay. I'm delayed with that. But I will tell you that first of all, being at the Harvard of the Midwest, as you were, the Baldwin Wallace University. I know you weren't there, Billy. Yeah, shake your head. I will not have the vernacular that Dr. AJ Seth had, but he was phenomenal, and I love that we're bringing him into this. So. But I'll just speak to my scenario last night. It was a very special game for me, being a an alumni of Sandy Valley and a former player there, but also a coach for many years at Canton South. And I'll tell you, you talked about Pooch, and Pooch is he's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal kid, and I had a pleasure of coaching him, but I still have a pleasure of keeping in contact with him now. He goes 16 for 24 last night, 281 yards and a touchdown. But it's those things that you don't see on film, watching him direct an offense, watching him, not telling guys where to go, but kind of telling guys where to go. And just little things like that. But I'll tell you what, he's a fun player to watch.
When you look at that game last night, were you prepared for a shootout? And with Graybill filling in for Petro, right? You talk about the freshman Culver with 6 touchdowns. Graybill at quarterback, I believe he's a freshman too for Sandy Valley. So give us your thoughts on what you were expecting before the game, and then as it unfolded. And even though they lost, that's got to be a confidence builder for the Cardinals with the freshman quarterback for future years, and then whenever they get Petro back.
So my first coaching stop was at Sandy Valley, and I was fortunate to coach under Jim Morris there, who is now an assistant on the team. So I actually went down this week and I watched them play. I was there Tuesday to watch them practice. And it was the day that Nicky Petro was going to the doctor, and they were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen. And they actually went defense first, practice wise, to hopefully, have him come running in, and be able to play. But I'll tell you what, Graybill, he's a little kid, but he comes in and he does little things right. And I really like what they did offensively with him. They kind of did some dink and dunk things left and right. And I'll tell you what, I played as a freshman on Friday nights, and building the confidence is huge. And they did that with him. And it was amazing to see. Kind of a funny story. I don't know if you guys heard this, but before he started last week at Manchester, he went up to Coach Gamble and he said, "Coach, I'm not nervous at all." And Brian Gamble told him, "Well, that makes one of us," So he showed it last night. He's got ice in his veins, and it was just really kind of cool to see a freshman do that. And they kind of catered the offense around him a little bit. Yeah, and you talk about Zion Culver from Canton South. 17 carries, 106 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns. I text you, Billy, and I said, "Man, I wish this kid was on my track team last year in 8th grade," but he transferred in from Kansas City.
Well, we talked with Coach Benson. He talked a little bit about Culver had gotten those touchdowns, kind of at the goal line, and obviously a big game for him. What did you think of that running back unit, Derek? Not just Culver, but the other two.
It's really nice. They have another kid, Ethan Fricky, who so I coached all these kids. I try not to talk about it because it's not about me. It's about the kids, and that's why we all do this. But this was one of the last great teams I coached, the junior class right now. You're talking Pooch. You're talking Ethan Fricky. He's another kid he's a linebacker, great kid. And they have him in the backfield. So you got kind of like the thunder and lightning approach with Zion being the lightning and, Ethan Fricky bringing the heat. I really like what they're doing. And then you throw in Ja'Kai Holston, and it's really fun to see what South is doing.
When you look at this team for Canton South, we had Matt Dennison on regional championship. He said in the back of our minds, that's our goal, right? But we got to go week to week to eventually get there. So do you feel that this team has what it takes to go far this year in the playoffs at Canton South? And if you will, after that, what about Sandy Valley once they get Petro back?
First of all, and sorry for the delay. We'll figure this out for next week.
You're just thinking through your answers.
But I'll tell you this. I'm excited to see what they do in the pack. As a guy who coached, I was on the varsity staff for 8 years. And then afterwards, a few of us varsity guys went down to the middle school and tried to do some things right there. And we were always, a part of a different conference. And I'm excited to see what they do in the Pac-7. I think it's going to be really good for them. I'm interested to see what they do against the Fairless and things like that. But I'll tell you this, last night, I was really wondering how it was going to go. And then Xavier Williams runs back the opening kickoff. It was like, boom, and talking to Brian Gamble before the game, he said, Derek, we can't start out slow. And they started out slow. They give up that first touchdown. They give up another touchdown. They're down 14-0. And it looked like it was going to be a blowout, but they just kind of kept hanging around. Sandy did. They're young. They're fun to watch. They do things fundamentally right. And they ended up making it a game. They forced turnovers. There was like I have it off the top of my head, but there was like 4 or 5 turnovers in the first half by Canton South. That's something that they're going to have to fix. But, you got to give credit to Sandy for forcing those turnovers.
Derek, great perspective on this. We appreciate you making time for us. Keep up the good work on the Alt Care TV Game of the Week, roaming the sidelines, and we'll talk to you again down the road here on the Saturday Morning Huddle. But thanks so much.
OH.
I.O. Very good. There is Derek Philo checking in with us here on the Saturday Morning Huddle with a unique perspective on that game, having played for Sandy Valley and coached there at Canton South. And Billy, we've got the week 4 games. Let's roll these real quick for people to see where your team is playing next week. There's our schedule. All right, we'll start with the Pro Football Hall of Fame Game of the Week, Jackson at Green in a Federal League matchup. Fairless and Northwest. That's a huge game right there. And that'll be the Alt Care WHBC TV Game of the Week. And then your game, the WHBCSports.com streaming Game of the Week, Glen Oak at Perry, another big Federal League game. 3 great games that we have for our viewers and listeners out there next week.
Yeah, no doubt. We're full schedule. We're full going at it. I think we might add a typo. I'm at Lake, so Glen Oak's at Lake.
Oh, okay. All right. That's on me. The typo's on me then on that one.
That's okay. Just want to make sure we get it straight because I'm excited for that one. I'm excited to catch the Blue Streaks. I think that's a team everybody's got their eyes on, Kenny. But at the same time, Scott Garcia's squad kind of making the most here and there, kind of doing what they're doing, and they're ready for a challenge in Lake. But I think they're also ready to breathe away from a Massillon type of opponent.
Yeah, so you take that graphic off because I want to get to your video that you have, and then we'll look at all the games next week as we peek ahead to week number 4. You were talking about the identical twins principals at competing schools last night between Louisville and Northwest. Take it from there.
All right, so you got Gary Tosh of Louisville, Larry Tosh of Northwest. I apologize if I'm messing up those names. That's how I heard it said last night. So, they did a little fundraising, Kenny, the coin collecting, at the 2 schools, the Battle of the Coins. I believe Northwest won that. Okay. Now, a little bit, I'll put on my play-by-play voice here real quick, okay?
All right.
A table turn contest. The students lay down, probably about 10 on each side. You put a table on them. The principal sits on the table. Now, the kids roll, and it rolls the table, and then as they roll, they get up, get back to the end of the line, and they continue rolling. I believe it was about 10 yards. They raced to see who could roll their principal into the end zone first. So let's take a look.
So Louisville not only won the game, they won the race as well, it looks like right there.
Right. They pull it out. And, breaking it down again, you see Louisville's got less kids on the left, and somebody had mumbled, they've only got, 10 kids to Northwest's 15 or 16. And I noted, I said, doesn't matter if they run fast enough to the end of it, they'll keep that thing moving.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't want to be on the bottom of that, Billy. That's all I know, man. If I'm anything, I'm riding the table, man. I ain't going to be on the bottom of that. What are they, like the Buffalo Bills Mafia or the WWE or something, using tables like that?
It's a TikTok trend. I'm not sure if you're on TikTok, but that's a
I
TikTok
am, Billy.
trend.
I do Instagram. I do Facebook. I do Twitter. I have not yet made the jump to TikTok. And whenever I see a TikTok trend, I usually get as far away from that as I possibly can.
Well, I'll tell you, once you're in TikTok, you're not getting out. So whenever you want to make that call to jump in, I don't think you'll ever be out of it.
No, I'll let the Utes of WHBC, and that would be you, handle all the TikToks, videos and side of things there. We've got the graphic fixed. Your game next week, Glen Oak at Lake, right? So that's your game on the stream on WHBCsports.com. Fairless at Northwest, TV game, and the radio game Jackson at Green, and then all the other games next week as well, scrolling the bottom of the page. And don't forget, Monday, WHBC.com, I'll update Ken's top 10, the top 10 teams in Stark County. Fairless and Lake both won this past week, and, they're 1 and 2 in my ranking, so I don't think that will change. Heck, I'll give it away. The top 3 aren't changing, right? Fairless, Lake, and Massillon, 1, 2, and 3. After that, we'll see who goes 4 through 10 after week 3 of high school football in Stark County in Ken's top 10.
Well, I'm interested to kind of read through that and look at it, because what is the difference between a Fairless and a Lake for you right now, Kenny?
Well, you know what? I look at what Fairless did last year, and here's how I do my top 10. It's different from everybody else. I look at all the teams, the divisions that they play in, right? And I say to myself, all right, do I think they can go far in that division, right, in the playoffs?
Right.
If Fairless were to play Massillon head-to-head, let's be honest, Massillon's going to beat them, okay? Just, bigger school, bigger athletes, more depth, more play. So everybody's, well, Massillon, they'd beat maybe they would beat everybody in Stark County, but can they win the state title? How far could they go in the playoffs? So I try to factor that in with each team. Plus, I give them credit for the way they're playing currently, right? And just a gut feeling. So right now, 1, 2, and 3, Fairless, Lake, Massillon, you could put them in any order, right? In Stark County as the top 3 teams, I think, and you wouldn't have an argument from many people out there. So that's how I factor it in each and every week when I do Ken's top 10, and we post it Monday morning on WHBC.com.
Terrific. Got to shout out Dr. Seth. He was great today. Thanks to all the coaches that appeared, and a special delayed version of Derek Philo was interesting, but
hey, it's live TV, as they say, basically, right? We're streaming live on Facebook. We're streaming live on WHBC.com. We're streaming live on our YouTube channel. Hey, you roll with the punches. You adjust to the blitz, right? You counter it however you can, and we were able to get Derek's story, and that was the most important thing to me of his unique situation involving that game. And we're looking forward to next week's games on radio, TV, and stream, and then we'll have week number 4 of the Spectrum Orthopedics Saturday morning huddle. We'll have more player interviews hopefully next week. We'll try and get some players, more coaches on with us live. Plenty of highlights for you from the games that we cover, that we can get highlights, the stats. And Dr. AJ Seth from Spectrum Orthopedics will join us again next week, and we'll see what angle he wants to take on high school football and injuries and giving you advice like that.
Beautiful. Another great week of high school football. Like you said, Kenny, I'm excited to get back at it Friday night. The show's going well Saturday. We appreciate everybody tuning in, number one, and we appreciate the coaches. You talked about it. They've got film. They've got breakdowns they want to do. I'm sure they have stuff they still want to watch and check out on their own. So having them come in and sit with us a little bit and talk. And as the season goes on, more from Dr. Seth. I'm never touching pickle juice again, I don't think.
It's okay. I'm telling you, some people like pickle juice in their adult drink, with one of those mixtures. They say it tastes. I'm not a fan of that, but you know what? I'm going to continue with my body armor, stay hydrated, and if I need the pickle juice, I'll eat them or I'll drink it. And that way I can walk my 4.5 miles or 5 miles every weekend on the sidelines doing the Pro Football Hall of Fame Game of the Week with Bells and Denny and with our quarterback, former Cleveland Browns quarterback Mark Miller. So it'll be a lot of fun. And tune into the Kenny and JT show all week long, as we'll have different coaches on with us to preview the games coming up in week 4. And then we'll recap them next Saturday morning here on the Saturday Morning Huddle.
Great stuff. Have a great week, Kenny. Appreciate it.
You too. OH.
I-O, buddy.
Go Bucks. Beat Notre Dame. We'll talk about that on the show. Let's see. We're off Monday. It's Labor Day. Have a great extended weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you at 3 o'clock on the Kenny and JT show on Tuesday.